Sheffield United welcoming Manchester United back to Bramall Lane in the Premier League. How exciting will it be?
The atmosphere is crazy, you know. I think Sheffield in general, when it comes to football, we've got some of the best, fans in the world.
I think this time around, Sheffield United might fancy themselves of getting a positive result the way they've started life in the Premier League.
Do you know what? I think they should feel privileged to play at Bramall Lane.
It's been a great experience for all that really have been connected with Sheffield United. I've had the privilege of following the teams in the Steel City for a long time now, so watching Sheffield United against the likes of Oldham and Accrington, where crowds were down on what they are right now, to see what's happened in a relatively short space of time, to see that Arsenal are coming to town, Leicester have been in town, Manchester United are the next opponents here. It's great to see. It's great for football in this city, not just because of the coffers and the standards of the players that will be playing in this city, but also the whole city. United Wednesday, Sheffield Club and Hallam FC starts to get the recognition that it's deserved.
When you start supporting a football club when you're young, whether it's Sheffield United, whether it's Barnsley, whether it's Huddersfield Town, or whether it's Real Madrid, you always want to see your team pitted each week against the very best that football can offer. It's everybody's dream. I personally never grew up supporting Sheffield United, ever expecting us to make regular trips to Wembley, to play in FA Cup semi-finals, League Cup semi-finals, to play in playoff finals, even though when I was a kid they didn't exist. So when I look back and think of the things I've seen in particular the last 30 years at Sheffield United, in terms of how we are as a football club, it really is unparalleled success. And here we sit, back in the Premier League after a 12-year absence, and at the current point of this conversation being filmed, we're in the top 6, which is an incredible feat. So, how excited is it to welcome, in my opinion, one of the biggest clubs in the world to Bramall Lane? It's fantastic. It's where you want to be. It's where this football club should be. There's no divine right to our being there, and there's no mix that says we can stay. We've just got to give it a best shot. And I think it'd only be a fool that said that we weren't doing that at the moment. So to open the doors to clubs like Manchester United, to open the turnstiles to their supporters, to look at the noise and the pageant that it brings to Bramall Lane is a truly incredible thing. You know, if you can't get emotional about where we are now and how the journey of getting here has been, then it really is time to give up. You can't have a pulse.
It was overdue, and I was over the moon for them. Sheffield needs, a team in the Premiership. I think it'll uplift the whole city, and it's way overdue. I think we should have at least one team in the Premiership a very long time ago, and now we have got someone in the Premiership. Hopefully, we can stay here for a very long time.
I think it was, in terms of a footballing sense, I think it was thoroughly deserved. I think in terms of an opportunity for the club as well, it's an absolutely exceptional one that hopefully everybody's going to be able to grasp. If you look at the results so far in the Premier League, it is certainly one that they look equipped to grasp and exploit, because it just opens up a wealth of opportunities, not only on the pitch, but I think off it for the football club as well.
Sheffield United, the cross hangs high, and it's gone in, and Sheffield United have taken the lead, and it's Lise Mousset on the line who nudges the ball.
The other thing, just on a personal level, where I think it's a great chance for Sheffield United, but I think it's a great chance for the city as well, because you hear lots of people talking about Manchester being a great footballing powerhouse. Obviously Manchester United are going to be at Bramall Lane this weekend. You hear a lot of people talking about Liverpool in the same breath and London. Well, I think if you look at the history of the game and if you look at the history of the city, Sheffield deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as well. And I think having Sheffield United not only in the Premier League now, but doing so well in the Premier League, I think is a great opportunity to sell that Sheffield brand, as it were, even though that's a word I don't particularly like.
My last memories are that it was a very different Manchester United. It was a Manchester United at the height of its powers. Rooney scored the last time that Manchester United came to Bramall Lane, and I think what happens this weekend is an altogether different challenge. Manchester United are still a global entity. They're still one of the biggest clubs in the world, but as a team from then until now, there was a degree of fear about what Manchester United might do that day. It didn't quite materialise. They won 2-0. I think this time around, Sheffield United might fancy themselves of getting a positive result the way they've started life in the Premier League. Their away form has been superb. Some of the home performances have been excellent, and, well, with respect, this isn't the greatest Manchester United team ever either, and they've shown they've got fallibilities and can be quite susceptible at times. Although I will say, as a massive coincidence, I was at Old Trafford to watch them against Brighton, and they looked good that day, but I might argue that Sheffield United are better than Brighton. So it's going to be a tremendous match, wrapped up in a wonderful occasion, as all the home matches have been here, and it wouldn't be a massive surprise if Sheffield United got a result out of them.
What made me become a Sheffield United fan? We're very similar, you know. I think a lot of people underestimated us. We were the underdogs for a very long time, and it just shows you, you know, in this game it's about being consistent and working hard, and Sheffield United have been very consistent and they've worked hard, and look where they are. They're in the Premiership, they're in, you know, in the biggest league in the world.
I just think it's great to see a football club, a newly promoted football club, and especially one that's not been in the Premier League for 12 years up until the start of this season, just going in to a season and having a go, rather than setting up to sort of frustrate teams and possibly pinch something on the break. You know, rather than looking to turn every single match into a game of attack versus defence, you know, which is certainly not a game that I think most clubs are going to win against some of the strikers in the Premier League. I think it's great just to see them going into it and thinking, do you know what, we're going to pose some questions of our
Pick the
own.
ball into the area for Mousse, who's on side and slips the ball through the legs of Jordan Pickford. The lightning pace of Lys Mousset doubles the Blades lead in Goodison Park.
Do you know what? I think they should feel privileged to play at Bramall Lane. I think that if you, as a club, get too sucked into the stardom thing, then you begin to lose what you are. You know, as a collective body on the pitch, from the management team all the way down to the fans on the terraces, it all plays a part. And I think in some respects a great thing. You know, these are world-class players. But respect only works to a point. You've got to remember who we are and why we're here. And we haven't won a raffle. Nobody's given us a buy into the next round. Sheffield United Football Club are in the Premier League on merit. Because last season we were one of the best teams outside of the Premier League. That's how we got promoted. So for the younger fans and for fans full stop at Bramall Lane, it's wonderful to see these world-class players. It's fantastic. I think they should feel a bit privileged that they're walking onto our famous pitch, and every one of them coming here to Bramall Lane knows that they're up against a cracking football side who play football the proper way.
From a footballing perspective, to see the likes of Paul Pogba, to see eventually the likes of Harry Kane, some of the Man City players, what else? Who else have we had? Firmino, Salah playing football in this city. What that will leave are memories that will last forever and ever and ever for the younger supporters and for the old supporters as well. Now, everybody connected with Sheffield will hope that this is just the first of many seasons for Sheffield United specifically, as we're sat here, but Sheffield in the Premier League. But a lot of people will remember the day when they saw that player forever.
I think on results so far, I think they can go into this game with an awful lot of confidence. I mean, you saw Liverpool when they came here earlier in the season, and I think many people probably feared that that was going to be a little bit of a, not an annihilation, I think that would be too strong a word, but you know, that could possibly be one of the first occasions when Chris Wilder and his team might experience a really, really difficult day in the Premier League. And they competed as equals in that game, so I think they can go into this one, full of belief that they can compete as equals again. And you know what? once again, I go back to it, I think this is one of the great things about what's happened here in recent months, is that, you know, this might not be the strongest Manchester United team in history. I think even Manchester United supporters would accept that. But this is still one of the biggest clubs in world football. And you don't play for a club like Manchester United unless you've got a little bit about you. You know, bad players don't hang around at somewhere like Old Trafford very long. But you know what? Where I said earlier, I think Sheffield United can go into this thinking they can compete as equals. I think it's great to see the club competing on this stage, because if you look at the history of Bramall Lane, if you look at the history of Sheffield United Football Club and the stories behind it, and also if you look at the history of the city as well and what that's given to football, it deserves to be competing on this type of stage. And in terms of that culture and in terms of its history, even before you get on to what might go on during the game, it is competing as an equal.
Well, it's been an extreme privilege to be part of a team at Radio Sheffield that have followed that. I'm not the only one. There's been many other different guys passionate about sport and football in South Yorkshire and North Derbyshire that have seen the downs, the frustrations, the near misses, the playoff finals, and all of the other stories that have coincided with life at Sheffield United. And then to see that rise, as you say, a fairy tale story under Chris Wilder with double promotions has just been an extreme privilege to follow. It's been great football, it's been a good laugh along the way, and the players that you get to meet week in, week out really kind of buy into what you want to do. So from a media point of view, which seems the least relevant, but I'm going to say it anyway, it's been a great pleasure.